If you're building something, a business, a brand, a legacy, you're about to learn 5 rules that have built empires for over 200 years. These are the same moves the Rothschild banking dynasty used to rise from nothing to controlling the flow of money across Europe. And here's the thing, these rules aren't just history. They work just as well in 2025 as they did in the 1800s. Whether you're an ambitious founder, a driven entrepreneur, or just someone who refuses to settle for average, what you'll hear today can give you an edge most people will never even see coming. So, who were the Rothschilds? They started in the locked Jewish ghetto of Frankfurt in the late 1700s, where opportunities were few and laws worked against them. Yet from those narrow streets, they built a family network spanning London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and Frankfurt itself. They didn't just make money, they became the private bankers to kings and governments. They moved gold across borders, financed wars, and influenced the highest levels of power without ever holding public office. They mastered trust, speed, risk control, distribution, and the art of backing the right people. And those principles are just as relevant to building a modern business as they were to shaping empires 2 centuries ago. So let's start where it all began, with a handshake you couldn't see, but that could change the course of history. Lesson 1. The Invisible Handshake. Frankfurt, late 1700s. The Jewish ghetto was a place of locked gates, narrow alleys, and constant restrictions. By law, Jews couldn't own land, join guilds, or hold public office. Opportunities were few, but Mayer Amschel Rothschild saw a path others overlooked. He dealt in rare coins and antiquities, treasures that the wealthy collected not for necessity, but for pride. His customers were not ordinary men, they were aristocrats, people whose signatures could move armies and treasuries. Among them was Prince Wilhelm of Hesse-Kassel, one of the richest rulers in Europe. Mayer never rushed the relationship. He didn't pitch grand banking services. Instead, he focused on earning the prince's confidence. Every delivery was precise, every transaction discreet. He handled valuable assets without a hint of risk or gossip. Over years, the connection deepened. Then came the opportunity. During Napoleon's campaigns, Prince Wilhelm faced the threat of losing his fortune. He needed someone to safeguard massive sums of money, quietly, without drawing the attention of invading forces. He turned to Mayer, not because of a contract, but because of trust built long before. In business, that is currency. People rarely give their most valuable opportunities to the newest face with the loudest pitch. They give them to the person who has already proven, in small ways, that they can be trusted completely. For an entrepreneur today, this means your first move in any new market isn't selling. It's showing up with value. Make introductions, share useful insights, solve small problems, build a reputation so strong that when the big moment comes, there is no debate about who gets the call. Lesson 2. Information Arbitrage. Europe was a chessboard in flames. Armies clashed from Portugal to Russia. Governments rose and fell in months. In this chaos, fortunes could be made or lost in a single decision, if you had the right information at the right time. Most bankers relied on public couriers or word of mouth. A letter could take weeks to cross a border. By the time news reached them, the opportunity had already passed. But the Rothschilds played a different game. From their 5 branches across Europe, London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and Frankfurt, they built one of the fastest private communication networks on the continent. Trusted riders on fresh horses, coded letters, and even small boats moved through secret routes. Their agents were placed in major cities, trading hubs and military outposts, gathering intelligence like a private army of observers. This meant they could know the results of battles, changes in government policy, and shifts in commodity prices days before their competitors. In an era where time was measured in weeks, even a 48-hour lead could mean controlling the outcome of million-pound deals. It's this speed, not size, that gave them the edge. The Rothschilds didn't just react to markets, they moved before the market even knew it needed to react. For an entrepreneur today, the principle is unchanged. Speed to accurate information decides who wins. If you wait for the news that everyone else sees, you're already late. Build your own intel pipeline. Custom alerts for your industry, private communities where information flows before it's public, direct relationships with people on the ground. Even a single day of advance notice can mean securing the client, buying at the right price, or launching before a competitor is even aware of the opening. The Rothschilds knew. In business, the one who knows first writes the rules. Lesson 3. The Five-Front Strategy. Frankfurt, early 1800s. Mayer Amschel Rothschild sat at his desk, quill in hand, writing letters that would change the future of his family forever. Europe was not stable. Wars, revolutions, and sudden shifts in power could wipe out a fortune overnight. Mayer understood a truth most businessmen ignored. It was dangerous to keep all power in one place. So he made a bold move. He divided his greatest asset, his own bloodline. Each of his 5 sons would leave Frankfurt and establish a branch in one of Europe's major financial capitals. Amschel stayed in Frankfurt, Salomon went to Vienna, Nathan to London, Karl to Naples, and James to Paris. This was more than expansion. It was risk management in its purest form. If one city fell to war, another could keep the network alive. If one government declared bankruptcy due to its debt, another could still pay. Together, the brothers formed a living system, 5 centers of wealth and influence, connected by loyalty, trust, and constant communication. And it worked. When Napoleon's armies swept across Europe, most banks tied to a single city were crushed. The Rothschild network spread across 5 strongholds, adapted, and survived. They could move capital between branches like water flowing around obstacles. No single disaster could take them down. For the modern entrepreneur, the lesson is simple but brutal. Never have one point of failure. If all your income depends on one client, one platform, or one location, you're exposed. Spread your influence. Operate in multiple centers of gravity so that when one market suffers, another keeps you standing. The Rothschilds didn't just build wealth, they built resilience. And resilience is the difference between a business that lasts a season and one that lasts a century. Lesson 4. Own the rails, not just the product. Mid-19th century Europe. The Rothschild offices in London, Paris, and Vienna were no longer just banks. They had become the arteries through which the continent's capital flowed. Governments, railways, and industries all depended on them. This wasn't by accident. The Rothschilds had learned early that the greatest power doesn't always belong to the person selling the product. It belongs to the one who controls how that product moves. They didn't need to own every mine, factory, or shipping fleet. What they owned was the route money and goods had to travel to reach their destination. When governments needed to borrow vast sums to finance wars or build infrastructure, the Rothschilds arranged the loans. When gold had to cross borders, it often moved through their network. When a railway company needed massive funding to lay new tracks, it was the Rothschilds who structured the deal. They didn't just participate in commerce, they built the rails commerce ran on. Owning the rails meant they earned money no matter who won the market share battle. A country could choose one coal supplier over another, one weapons manufacturer over another. It didn't matter. If the transaction touched their network, they profited. For an entrepreneur today, this principle is gold. Competing on products alone is a fragile game. Trends change, competitors copy, margins shrink. But if you control distribution, access, or deal flow, you set the terms. That could mean building a platform that others must sell through, owning a supply chain others rely on, or managing the payment system everyone in your niche needs. The Rothschilds understood that products come and go, but the rails, the systems, stay in place for decades. And the one who owns the rails doesn't just join the game, he becomes the one who decides how it's played. Lesson 5. The Kingmaker Move. Paris, 1830. The streets roared with revolution. The Bourbon monarchy had fallen, and France stood on the edge of chaos. In moments like these, many bankers pulled back, afraid to risk capital in such uncertainty. But James Rothschild saw something different. not just a political crisis, but an opening. Instead of betting on a single business or commodity, he backed a man, Louis Philippe, the new citizen king of France. James extended credit, stabilized the currency, and signaled to the rest of Europe that this ruler had the confidence of one of the most powerful banking families alive. That support wasn't charity, it was strategy. By aligning himself with the man at the center of power, James ensured that every major financial decision in France passed through his hands. The Rothschilds repeated this move across Europe. They didn't just fund businesses, they funded leaders, the people who could open markets, award contracts, and set national policies. Backing the right person meant they influenced entire industries without owning them outright. The lesson is timeless. A strong ally with reach and influence can make an average idea unstoppable. A brilliant product without backing might die in obscurity, but a mediocre one in the hands of a powerful figure can dominate a market. For a modern entrepreneur, the Kingmaker move means identifying people who already have momentum, rising founders, influential creators, political figures, or cultural leaders, and becoming the partner who fuels their rise. It might be capital, it might be skills, it might be access to your network, but whatever you offer, it makes you part of their inevitable success. The Rothschilds knew that products age and markets shift, but people with power shape history. And by backing the right people, they made sure their influence outlived every single deal.